Hey, and welcome to Sue Rogers Unedited. I am Sue Rogers, and for today's episode, I have a very special guest with me, my girl Nika. We go way back, crazy long story of how we met and then reconnected, but kind of always stayed connected. But we are going to talk about who knows what, but I do want to have you guys get a little bit of background. So, Nika, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, go for it.
So, as Sue stated, we've known each other for a long time. I want to say we're pushing almost 20 years at this point. I'm so proud of everything she's doing, but I'm sure those of you that follow her already know. I've had the pleasure of knowing her personally, and she's an absolutely amazing human, phenomenal wife and mom. And I'm so proud to see the way things have developed for her. Um, and I've really been wanting to do this podcast with her because a lot of the things that we do kind of overlap in a lot of ways. So, several years ago, I started my own company, which is called StoLat Wellness, and I am a certified intuitive integrative wellness coach, basically a really fancy way of saying life coach. But my specialty isn't pigeonholed into one category. I'm very unique in the sense that I do a full blown bio individual holistic approach to every single client that I work with. And that is going to be the four cornerstones of the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual. And every single program that I design for my clients is very individual based. So, Sue and we've tapped in a lot about gut health and stuff like that because some people kind of need to start on the physical end of things. I've done a lot of work with people, who need to start on the mental phase, some on the emotional, some on the spiritual. Um, and I'm just very glad to be here. Just let's see where we go with this one.
Yeah. I do actually want to ask you about bee pollen because I have like you've got a great one. I would have no doubt. Like I've seen the packaging for yours, and as soon as I run out of the one that I have, yours is next on my order list. But can you tell people a little bit about that and the health benefits of it?
So before we even talk about the health benefits, I think people need to understand why they even need it.
Yes.
This is a conversation that I have with almost every single client, and I probably have it 3 to 5 times a day with random people that I meet. So the number one question is, where do all your vitamins and minerals come from? There's they only can come from the soil, right? You take a seed, put it in the soil, right? The weather, Mother Earth does its thing, the plant grows, right? Whether it's a carrot, turnip, strawberry, whatever the case may be, but it's getting all this amazing nutrient from the soil, right? A strawberry doesn't get minerals and vitamins just because it's a strawberry. It's because of that process, right? Of actually growing and absorbing everything around it. So the problem is that specifically in the United States or in westernized worlds, they are selling a lot of organic produce, which is great because it doesn't have the pesticides and doesn't have the herbicides and all of this junk in it. But a lot of it's being hydro grown, meaning it's grown in water. So, how are these fruits and vegetables getting any vitamins and minerals from water? And now, granted, a lot of places are, infusing supplementation in it, but it's never going to be the right amount the way that you would naturally get it from the earth. And the reason why a lot of places don't want to grow it from the earth is because you have to combat nature, right? Maybe there's a drought, maybe there's too much water, maybe, you have some type of insect issue. So the problem is that we as a society, almost globally at this point, we reach for supplements. All right, well, let me take this calcium, right? Let me take this D3, let me take vitamin C. But over 90% of these supplements in the stores that you would go to supplements for, because I want to name brands, they're crap. And a lot of them are filled with such impure supplementation that it's not even going to really be effective. Number one. Number two, it's not even in the right combinations for you to properly be able to absorb it.
Yeah.
So if you are facing any issues, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, I always check to see what are you eating and what is your supplementation. And I have people who sometimes run up $300-400 a month on supplements from, all of these different brands and stores, and they're still struggling with so many issues. And I tell them, instead of spending all of this money, just find yourself good bee pollen and sea moss. And the reason why those two together are a powerhouse is your bee pollen is basically nature's vitamin bomb. It is every vitamin you'd ever want on the planet in one substance, and you just need a tablespoon of it first thing in the morning. I personally import all of my bee pollen from Poland. That is where I'm from. And the reason I import it is because I know it's pure. In Poland, we do not have GMO, we do not have herbicide, we do not have any type of pesticides. Therefore, when the bees go around, they pollinate all the flowers and veggies and fruits, and come back to the hive and they, create that pollen, it's clean. You can literally smell the difference and taste the difference versus some of the pollen that I've gotten that claim to be organic. And I'm sure it is, but you can't, there's not a net where the bee flies to, right? So unfortunately, you're going to get that cross contamination when you're trying to get pollen from a country that is not 100% natural and organic. So all of the bee pollen is going to be all the vitamins that your body needs, right? Your A's, your B's, your C's, right? Amino acids, all that great stuff. Now, let's talk about the sea moss. Your body is made, and this, everyone debates on this, but let's just say it's around 102 minerals. So I get my sea moss imported from St. Lucia, which is certified, and it is naturally harvested. So if you guys are buying sea moss and it says wild crafted, I just want you to know you're buying sea moss that is grown in a pool. You have to buy sea moss that says wild harvested, because wild crafted means they're creating it. So with the sea moss, you have to make sure that it is being harvested. There's also another tips and tricks. If you're looking for good sea moss, it's supposed to be really thin. It's supposed to come pretty kind of like flexible when you receive it. And it's not supposed to have a lot of salt and drying on it. Now, when you clean it and you prep your sea moss, it's supposed to grow. But if your sea moss is growing from maybe this much to this much, that is fake. There is nothing natural or real about that sea moss. So when you do get that natural sea moss, like I make sure the one that I get, you're getting about 97 to 99% of the minerals that your body's requiring. I also always purchase full spectrum sea moss. Full spectrum means, and there's only a few places in the world that actually have naturally growing full spectrum sea moss, which is like Tanzania, St. Lucia, for example. And full spectrum just basically means is you're getting all the different types of sea mosses. You're going to get your blues or purples, as they call it. You're going to get your traditional whites, which a lot of people have seen. You're going to get your greens. You're going to get like your reds. It looks like this beautiful rainbow of sea moss. And I would say that as soon as people start to take it, within 5 to 7 days, they experience it's like life altering for them. Now, before I even put any of my clients on bee pollen and sea moss, the number one thing that people are not aware of is I could give you the best supplementation recommendation in the world. But if your digestive system, if your gut health is trash, then you're just wasting money on buying the supplementation. And the reason why, and I'm sure, Sue has talked on it with ends, it's because your body, if it's full of sludge and it's not detox and it's not working, you're not going to be absorbing all that amazing supplementation with the sea moss and the bee pollen.
Yeah, right. Clogged bathtub. The other, like, if your digestive system is messed up from leaky gut anywhere, then like things are permeating through your leaky gut and not being processed and absorbed the right way.
Yeah, I mean, sea moss and bee pollen are absolutely phenomenal. Sea moss has all three magnesiums that the body requires. I just started working with a new client who has a ton of medical issues, has been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and we literally did like a castor oil treatment on her, and we're trying to get her gut regulated in order for her to take the supplementation. Now, a lot of people sometimes wonder, why do I know about this and what led me to this point? Well, it's a very long story short. when I immigrated to the United States in the 90s, I started experiencing extreme autoimmune issues. And it took me till I was about 25 years old, the last time I was hospitalized. And I was put on all of these protocols of drugs. I gained like 30 pounds in a month. I was high as hell. Like, I definitely should not have been driving. I was put on antidepressants. I'm 25. I trust my doctor, right? They know everything.
Ugh,
And, I started having mental health issues on top of physical issues. I just felt like a zombie, like I was on autopilot. And I will never forget, I decided to kind of flush all that medicine down the toilet. And at 25, I started to do research and try to go back to basics and reading a lot about like Eastern medicines and, how the physiology and the biology of the body is composed. And at 35 is the first time that I actually was able to sleep. It was the first time my body was not inflamed. I was able to control my weight. I had energy. I wasn't constantly depressed and sad. I I would never trade the last 5 years of my life compared to what I had. A lot of people as we age want to go back in time. I at 40, I'm feeling better than I've ever felt in my life. Better
yeah,
than 15, 25, 30, 35,
yeah, I do. We have very similar experience, similar journeys in getting to a place where you feel like crap, trusting the doctors, and then realizing, no, this isn't working, and finding ways to heal ourselves using natural things from the that God gave us that we're supposed to be doing that actually heal the body, and then the other things, the other issues kind of take care of themselves once you start healing things internally and figuring out where the root cause is coming from, which for most people is coming from the gut.
Yeah, I don't think, it's not, I don't think at this stage, we just aren't educated, right? Like we're not told. When did we ever sit down in school? We're the same generation. When did we have in school about digestive health and nutrition?
Um,
We had sex ed, but we didn't have anything about nutrition or healthy eating.
so right, like part of my college degree, I took a nutrition class, and that's kind of what started some of my journey, but it didn't like what we're taught, what they teach you about nutrition and the food pyramid in the United States, which is atrocious.
Oh my God, the food
That's what
pyramid.
I was learning, but it was the first step in actually keeping a food journal, and back then we didn't have phones with apps. I had to handwrite
No.
everything that I ate down on a piece of paper and carried it with me all day
Yeah.
long. But keeping a food journal for 2 weeks and writing down everything that I ate without lying was very eye opening to me to realize, oh, this is what I'm actually putting in my body. Maybe I should
Hmm.
switch some of this here and add some of this here. So that was the beginning of my journey, but it didn't really hit hard on healing my gut until they diagnosed me with chronic sinusitis at age 30, maybe right at 30. Had a whole MRI because I was having these weird brain feelings like I was going to pass out. And the doctors were like, well, but I had the MRI because my mom had had a benign tumor on her pituitary when I was in
Hmm.
college. And so they were like, let's just check your head just to make sure. And the only thing they found was inflammation in my sinuses. And so I was like, well, okay, well, I don't want to take your allergy meds for the rest of my life. So then I started researching, well, what else could be the cause, led me to healing my gut. Anyways, but yeah, the journey that we go through, because it's like, why aren't we just taught? Like, I'm sure maybe somewhere in our ancestry, we had like, I swear there's got to be someone in my ancestry somewhere that was like a total witch with herbs and like burned at the stake or whatever. But like all of that stuff was there for a reason, and I guarantee you that all the natural healers that were burned at the stake were done so because somebody came in and was like, I'm gonna fix it with a pharmaceutical. We got to get rid of this lady who thinks she can cure it with some twigs and leaves.
Well, the thing is, I always I always try to explain it to anyone that I'm working with or just randomly because I end up in these conversations daily. Um, if you literally look at your body as just a vehicle, right? You're not going to take your car that you use and you drive around with, and you're not going to run it down and have no gas in it. You're going to make sure that there's air pressure in the tires. You're going to make sure that the filters are clean, that you have windshield washer, right? You make sure all of that is there in order for that vehicle to run. Well, we not only don't respect our bodies, but we beat the crap out of them. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is because we take this body for granted because we're so disconnected from it. We
Yeah.
don't know anything about our bodies. The average person cannot tell you where their organs are, or I'm sorry, where their organs are, right? They
Mm.
can't tell you what the function of those organs are. This is a body you've had since your mother pushed you out,
Yeah.
and you don't even know that basic. And that, as to your point, they do that on purpose because when they disconnect you, then you are so busy running around just being in this I have a problem, someone help me, versus looking internally and going, well, let me learn about what this should function like. Like
Hmm.
you mentioned inflammation. A lot of people don't realize is inflammation is really your friend in the sense of when your body inflames, it's trying to protect something. The problem is when your body is constantly inflamed, when
Yes.
you can't get rid of the inflammation. And the reason why so many people have problems with inflammations is because it's called oshpionitsa, which is like it means octopus. So basically, if your digestive system is the head of the octopus, and all of your limbs, right, your head is just the tentacles of it because it's all connected, right? You have all your lymph nodes here and the nose, right?
Hmm.
When your lymph nodes are blocked up, and this is caused by the lotions you put on, the deodorant with all the aluminums. This is why men are getting all this breast cancer and all these other things, right? It's also the food that you're eating. So, for example, it's not about being lactose intolerant. People cannot eat the dairy in this country because of how much chemicals and hormones are given to the animals that then it basically spoils the production that they make. So the number one thing I always say to anyone that I meet is cut out the dairy. The second thing is cut out the sugar. Listen, I don't have a problem. If you want a cookie, go make it yourself. Get some
Yeah.
good organic flour, get some real brown sugar, okay, because white sugar is not like really a thing, okay? Get some real butter, and make yourself some cookies. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're eating Oreos, right, or you're eating Doritos, which you can literally set on fire and they don't even melt, how do you expect your body to be able to digest it? And then it's going to cause inflammation because you're retaining all of that poison, all of those chemicals, and your body's freaking out and it doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. Right. Get those crumble cookies.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
this is something I think a lot of people, if they woke up to the fact that the advertising and marketing world has gotten so great at what they do that we've all been basically programmed. How many times have you seen, like, I don't know, like a pancake commercial and you're like, oh, look at those steamy pancakes with the syrup or the burger on the grill. And they know how to use the right colors and they know how to
mhm.
use, the right, lighting on it. And your brain is like, oh, I want that. That looks good. That's appealing to me.
Yeah.
And even though it's something your body doesn't really need. Your body doesn't need a tub of ice cream. If you want some ice cream, that's fine. But go get the real stuff. Don't
Yeah.
get like the crap sitting in the freezer for 3 years. Go get something real. Like I tell people, I don't personally do dairy and I limit my sugar consumption and I don't really do gluten because of all the medical issues I had. I inflamed very, very quickly. And then I also have respiratory issues, which the inflammation causes a lot of mucus and stuff like that. And that very fortunately has been under control. But if you want to get a bagel, go to your local bagel shop, get that fresh bagel. You're supporting your local community, and at least you're eating something that's fresh, not a bagel with a shelf life of 3 weeks on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I, it takes me forever to grocery shop because I will read the label of everything before I buy it. And most of the time, I'm putting it back.
Yeah,
However, Like there's, I don't know if you have it's called Sprouts out here. It's not, it's, do you have Trader Joe's?
There is a Trader Joe's. There's
Okay.
a Trader
Oh,
Joe's, a Wegmans, a Whole Foods, and a Harris Teeter.
so Sprouts is not Whole Foods. I would say it's closer to Trader Joe's, but it actually has a bigger variety of stuff. But
Mhm.
they're like, a lot of it's really clean, organic. They have a huge like keto selection of stuff, which when my son and I discovered that for him to be able to get some carb like things, not all of those things have the cleanest ingredients, but if you're trying to go low carb to control blood sugars for longer, better health, if you're diabetic, then those keto options are really good. But they've got, like in California, we're able to have raw milk. So they carry raw milk. They also have organic milk. So there's people that I know that haven't been able to do dairy forever and they've switched to
Mhm.
either an organic version or raw and they're like, "Oh my god, I can have milk now."
And real organic, not the
Yeah.
organic that has like a 60 to 90-day shelf life.
No, like I've bought them before thinking, "Okay, cool, we're going to use this up," but it goes bad so much faster because it's so
Yeah.
like clean and fresh. Um, But then there's
You know,
also some
I
bread.
know
Yeah.
to talk about the fresh milk. So this is something people don't realize. Like I still come from a country where you go to the backyard and you milk the cow. And that taste of that fresh milk and the fact that it's only good for about 72 hours and it's warm when you milk the cow, I don't understand how you could eat the marketing, once again, is genius to
Yeah.
sell people organic milk with a 60 to 90-day shelf life.
Yeah. 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 I got a good tip somewhere that said if you're buying raw milk and you don't think you're going to go through it fast enough, freeze it in like ice cube trays. So then you can just take out what you need to keep it fresh that way, which
Hmm.
isn't, full of preservatives. It's still fresh. You just
Yeah.
prolong the life of it a little bit.
And what were you saying about the bread?
Oh, yeah. I found um, a sourdough bread that is organic that literally just has three ingredients. It's the organic flour, salt, and the yeast. I was shocked because I like sourdough bread. I like I did the whole sourdough starter thing over the summer and I was like, this shit's too much work. Like I don't have time to be feeding it every day and then using it and baking shit every day. Like and that's a lot of bread. Like we're trying to not eat as much again, having a type 1 kid, he's 20 now, so he's kind of, testing the boundaries of what he can and can't have that doesn't mess with his blood sugars too much. But as much as I can give and find to help him with that causes less of a spike, I'm all for. And the sourdough bread actually does okay for him. And I've just read a thing, I don't know if it popped up for you too, but if it talks about if you freeze your bread, then the spike from blood sugar. Somehow the effect of freezing your bread before you eat it causes less of a spike in your blood sugars. I don't remember the
So
exact.
that's literally what I was going to tell you.
Of course, we both
Yeah.
know this.
My mom is visiting me from Poland, and my mom, in my country, people still cook dinner every day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. They make their own bread. So I have a whole freezer full of bread, and I
Nice.
could honestly eat that bread, and I don't feel bad after it. I don't feel inflamed. I don't bloat. I don't. And she makes it, kneads it out. And what she does is she makes, a bigger portion of it. Cause like you said, it is time consuming, right? To
Yeah.
make all that bread. And then you just make it into whatever your family would normally need. You freeze it in like a small plastic baggie, not necessarily a Ziploc, but like you kind of want to like foil it up. I mean, I'm sorry, plastic it up. And
Mhm.
then you take it out and then you put a like towel, like a dish towel around it. The night before in the morning, it's going to be like fresh bread.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And from what I understand, the reason why there isn't a spike on it, not only because it's such a limited ingredient, it's because it's fresh, but there's something in the compound that I guess in a way, the freezing of it kind of kills certain things off in it,
Yeah, I can't
you
remember
know?
exactly what
Yeah,
you said.
I can't think of it in English. I will get back to you on that one. But I know that's to be a fact. It's the same thing with blueberries, frozen blueberries, because once they freeze, it actually enhances all the antioxidant properties in them.
Yeah,
You get like triple the impact of a frozen blueberry than you do a fresh one.
nice. And
Hmm.
those are fun to snack on too. Like that's
Yeah, yeah. We always have frozen blueberries in my house for the dogs. That's like a staple for them every morning. Yeah.
perfect, right? Because I've read too, they're really good for dogs.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have two female pit bulls, so for me, it's one way that I can ensure that they're getting their antioxidant. It's really amazing for them
Hmm.
for how do you say like bladder infections or like UTIs and stuff. Because
Yep.
female dogs they squat. Um, never had one with any of my female dogs. And anytime I meet someone, and that topic tends to come up, especially someone who constantly their dog constantly has it, and I say, make sure you give them every day, like half a cup to a cup of frozen blueberries. You'll never have that problem again.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Hmm.
Again, that's another thing that's not rocket science and not complicated to do, but it's probably not common knowledge. I didn't know it, but I also have only
Yeah.
had a dog for 3 years.
So they've actually done phenomenal studies on people who have dementia and
Yeah.
Alzheimer's and like early set on even progressive. And they said that if you eat a cup to 2 cups a day of blueberries, whether they're fresh or frozen, it actually starts to allow the brain to heal. So a really big misnomer that we have been kind of sold is that the brain, the actual brain, which is an organ, can't heal. And that's completely false. Just the way you can fix your liver, just the way you can fix your kidneys, you can fix all of your organs can be fixed. And they have found that blueberries are like this super medical food for people struggling with dementia and Alzheimer's. And
Mhm.
another dirty little secret that's I feel like medically marketed is people talk about dementia like it's this thing that looms over you because you get old. But all dementia really is type 3 diabetes.
Yes.
So if you get rid of that sugar, then you get rid of the diabetes. It's the same thing how they have done amazing autopsies on people with multiple sclerosis. And 100% of the time, out of 100% of the time, when they autopsied someone who has MS, they have parasites in the brain.
Mm, yeah.
So this is why, like in Poland, most people deworm twice a year, you know, as winter is ending and after summer ends, because you tend to eat holidays, right? Crap. And then, in the summer, the ice creams and the barbecues and the whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, deworming is like a phenomenal thing, super easy to do. And a lot of people are like scared of it because it sounds crazy. It's
Oh, right.
foreign concept to them.
Right. And over here in the US, people are like, oh, worms. I don't have that. I don't have parasites.
Everyone has
Yeah.
parasites.
Like we all have. And right when everyone was like, oh no, a virus, a bacteria, like our bodies are made up of nothing but bacteria. Like our bacteria
Yeah.
outnumber our cells like 10 to 1, I think. Like it's something crazy.
Yeah. You're literally a walking cesspool of bacteria. But once again, we were raised, right, to think bacteria is bad.
Yeah,
And that's not the case,
it's
right? Like
not at all.
and what I love is when they try to sell bacteria as good, they call it live cultures,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So all the live culture eating yogurt people out there, it's a fancy way of saying you're eating bacteria. I'm telling you, man, I should have gotten into marketing. I mean, it's genius. Like how
Yeah.
they will wrap up the bullshit and resell it to you. And you're like, I want more. Give me more. Give me the live cultures. But you're afraid of the bacteria in your own body.
Yeah, no, not the bacteria, but yeah, live cultures, bring it on.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the same thing. For example, people always ask me, they're like, "Oh my God, your house doesn't smell like dog, right?" And my
Yeah.
little one, she's a shedder, and they're like, your dogs don't smell like dogs. If your dogs smell, let me explain this. The bathing of your, because I don't bathe my dogs. My dogs have probably had, the little one had probably had 2 baths her entire life thus far, and she's about to be 3. And my oldest just turned 7, and she's probably had maybe 2. And people are like, oh, that's gross. No, no, no. This is what's gross. Spraying your house down with all of these Lysols, all of these Clorox wipes, then your dog's laying in it, then it's getting into their furs, into their paws. If your dog smells like corn chips, it's an overgrowth of yeast in their body and on their skin. This is why they get allergic reactions. Then people are feeding their dogs all these kibbles, right? Which are just literally, if people actually did their research on kibble and saw that the meat that these dog food companies buy are literally green. That is how decomposed this meat is. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing, it's not a fresh piece of steak that they go and make kibble out of. So they
Yeah.
buy from these slaughterhouses, like the ears, the leftover parts or whatever.
Yeah.
They grind it up, sprinkle a little capsule of vitamin C crap on it, right? Back to the supplementation about how
Yeah.
all of those capsules are trash, majority of them. And that's what you feed your dog. And then you wonder why your dog's fat and it's dying by the time it's 8.
Yeah.
I mean, you only have to look at a dog's and their lifespan and how much it has almost decreased by 50% within the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
And you're eating the same garbage. I mean, like people love McDonald's. Explain to me, how do you have 17 ingredients in a French fry?
Yeah. It should be
I
like
mean,
2 potato, salt, oh, maybe 3. Because
and oil.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like you don't even have to, if you can't look at yourself, look at what's happening to animals, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I was just talking to someone the other day and I was saying, was it like a year ago? I took my dog in, she's having some digestive issues. And what do they want to know? They want to know, okay, well, what have you been feeding your dog? And then let's bring in a stool sample so we can check for parasites and worms. And I was thinking, next time I have any kind of like digestive issues, I just want to go in and see a vet. I don't want to go to the doctor because the vet will ask me, what have I been eating? And then maybe they'll check a stool sample to see if I have parasites. Like it makes so much
You
sense that like if you would ask those questions and go through that process and not just here, take some antacids, here, take some whatever the hell they want to prescribe you. Like,
but, but you have to think of it this way though, right? Everyone is being taught under this Rockefeller system of medicine, right?
yeah,
Which is very anti-holistic. So if
yeah,
a doctor were to ask you about parasites and then think you have parasites, that would then be indicative that you're a body of like living bacteria. See, they have to kind of steer you in this direction of like, oh no, no, you're not like really an animal, but we're animals. We're mammals, right?
yeah,
So they can't they can't treat you in that way, like in that way, because then you're gonna, when people start to think about themselves as an animal and they look at their dogs or cats that they have in the house, they're gonna be like, wait a minute, well, why aren't you taking a stool sample to see if I have parasites?
right,
Think of it this way: the only time I've ever heard of anyone being diagnosed with a parasite is when they have tapeworms,
yeah, right, like,
and they're usually severe. They're so severe, and they've gotten so big and so invasive. So many people require surgery.
yeah, yeah. It's like something you don't hear about, but I imagine if they were actually to check for it, they would find it in so many of us and then be able to treat it. And then once you treat that, then the other things go away.
Yeah. I mean, cultures, if you look at the way so many ethnic cultures eat, right? Like in Poland, for example, we're really big on cabbage, right? You guys call it, sauerkraut. It's a little different than like what people would be used to a sauerkraut, the way we make it, but it's fermented, right? We eat a lot of pickles, but see, our pickles don't have vinegar. Our pickles are brine because the pickle with the salt will naturally clean and detox. when I lived in South Korea, every single meal was eaten with kimchi, which is cabbage with, sauce, like this red pepper sauce and like fish oil, basically, right? And I didn't personally like it, but with every meal, why? Because that cabbage, all that fermented stuff literally naturally kills that parasites in the digestive system, and it also helps to regulate all the microbiome.
Yeah, that's funny. My dad, who is he's full German, but I think it was his grandparents that came over. Anyways, he loves sauerkraut. He loves all of that stuff. My mom does not, but my dad is the one that's got the healthier gut than my mom by far, which is, I mean, it makes sense. But he was in stationed in Germany and Europe for 2 years when he was in the army. So he was like really living in the whole element and got way more into it, I think, when he was out there. But yeah, anytime there's Oktoberfest around here, we go and we try all the different. I try all the different stuff. But yeah, like you read about and hear about those things and how good they are. Anything that's fermented, that fermentation process, so good for the gut.
Hmm. It's a natural probiotic.
Yep. Yeah. What's the other one? I feel like there's one more.
By the
Oh,
way, you're not seeing like anything popping up on my screen, right?
huh?
Like
Besides,
the whole time it's just video of me, right?
yeah.
Okay, good. Because I didn't realize I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. We're gonna edit this out, I assume.
If I remember where it is, yeah.
Screenshot it.
I'll dig through and find it. Um, but yeah, so many freaking good things. And you guys, to also reference, Nika and I met at a pub crawl in Hawaii. Probably not the best thing for the gut ever.
You know what? This is how I feel about it. Okay, so I'm Polish. It it's in my blood. It's a cultural norm to sit down with your family, have an entire table full of food. There's literally no space on the table,
Yeah.
right? Of food. Like Polish weddings are 3 days traditionally, and we drink our alcohol. Now, the only liquor I personally drink is tequila. And the reason I drink tequila is because tequila doesn't cause inflammation for me. I also really like the taste. I'm very bougie with my tequila. And I don't mean, Casamigos that tastes like a man's neck that has too much cologne on it, but like the good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and there's actually been very interesting stuff done with tequila specifically when it's being sourced with from a blue agave, that it is actually able to help people regulate sugar and blood pressures.
Hey,
Now, I'm not saying, go drink like a bottle.
yes.
I mean, we've been there too. Everyone has to have a vice a little bit. But for example, for me, wine and beer are two things that literally make me sick. Like I've thrown up direct after having a few sips of wine. It's like the acidity. Also, people don't understand a lot of wines have a lot of perfumes infusions into it. They have herbicides and pesticides in them because at the end of the day, they're growing in those orchards, right? Beer, same thing because of the yeast, right? Not very anti-inflammatory friendly. Vodka, it's just if you look at all the different tequila, I'm sorry, all the different alcohols. For me personally, tequila is the only one that I can drink, and I also don't get hangovers, and I don't have any type of issues or inflammations after I drink it. And
Yeah.
I don't mean Jose Cuervo. I mean like the good stuff. But Sue, you know this because we
I
we
know
drink
you don't
together.
mean Jose Cuervo.
Sue and I go way back.
Yeah. But like also my point too, I think that was back before my health issues got to where they were. And I'm not saying that I don't drink anymore now. I do on occasion now. And I was actually just talking about this the other day too about how there's this whole like oh, maybe this generation will be the one to stop drinking, like people stop smoking. And I'm like, the younger generations are drinking less because they smoke more weed. It's not because they're happier and healthier and living some like fantastic mental health positive outlook life. It's because they just switched it to a different vice, because again, I'm sure it's the marketing makes them think that that is less harmful to the body than alcohol. No,
Well,
they're both
well,
harmful in excess.
right. But here's the thing, right? If these kids smoked the weed that we had when we were like teenagers, they wouldn't even get high. And the other thing is, because they wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Because like I'm I'm blown. Like I've literally seen people who take like these edibles and who smoke weed, and I'm like, was that laced with heroin? Like what level of high are you on?
Yeah.
And on top of the weed, and I love when people are like it's natural. Let me explain something to you. Natural weed would not get you as high to the point where you look like you're nodding off on heroin. Okay, it's just not. It's natural weed, probably not. It's the same thing I tell people. If they actually had real pure coffee, they wouldn't even like get a buzz on it, you know? And the problem with the weed is they're not smoking it because they're like, rolling up a blunt or rolling up a joint. They're vaping.
Yeah.
They're crystallizing their lungs. A lot of these kids, their lungs aren't even fully developed yet, and they're crystallizing. I had a few clients where they were vapors and they were like, oh, but it's just vaping. And I was like, I want you to do your research on it. They did their research. They were like, okay. I literally know when someone vapes if I'm on a call with them and they didn't tell me they vape because of how they cough, especially if they have this deep, echoey kind of cough.
Yeah.
And when they went to go to their doctors, the doctors were like, yeah, your lungs are bad.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen all of these nicotine studies where like if people are smoking just straight nicotine, right? Not any of the chemicals or any of that other crap in it, where nicotine actually has some benefits in the body.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been reading about
So this all comes back to that level of marketing, right? And
yeah.
advertising,
Yeah.
right? We've turned everything upside down. I mean, like you mentioned the food pyramid, and I laugh because I will never forget the stupid posters.
Yeah.
Remember, and it was like, I think if I remember correctly, it was like sweets, dairy, meats, and carbs, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Bottom layer where you could have the most. They want you to eat 6 to
Carbs.
11 servings a day of grains.
Yes,
And
right.
then
And that was
above
like
that,
cereals, right? Ugh,
yeah. And above that was fruits and vegetables. And above
I
that
missed
was
that.
meat and dairy. And then the top was, yeah, sugar and oils.
Yeah. And yet, so like oils, when I meet a lot of clients and they have physical concerns, right? Whether it's, they're overweight or in pain, I ask them, well, how much oil do you intake a day? And they're like, I don't. Oh my God, oil? It's so bad
Yeah.
for you. First of all, there's no oils are not bad for you. The problem is it's the crappy oils that you're buying, like the
Yes.
canola oils, the
Yeah.
vegetable oils,
Yeah.
the sunflower oils. I drink every single day a half a cup of organic olive oil that's virgin cold pressed from Italy every day.
Yeah.
And the amazing benefits that it does on my body as a woman specifically, and we all age, sorry to break it to you guys, it helps to lubricate my joints, which
Mm-hmm.
is what you need. And if you aren't ingesting all of these amazing oils, then you're not lubricating your body. It's the same thing with nuts. People are like, oh yeah, I have my little trail mix. Great. Um, but they're all roasted. And once you roast a nut, you literally turn it to be bad oil.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to eat nuts, they have to be raw. Sorry, you're going to have to deal with it not being in honey powder or sugar or whatever crap is on it. You
Yeah.
don't get any health benefits, right? With the roasted nuts. It's the same thing a lot of people don't realize. The reason why peanuts are so bad for you is because when you roast them, they literally start to mold. They did an amazing study where they started introducing peanut butter in Vietnam. I'm pretty sure it was Vietnam, and this is when I lived in South Korea. And all of those children, literally within a year's time of eating this peanut butter and jelly sandwich, was like an American staple, right? Started developing issues with their respiratory systems and started getting more allergens because when you eat peanuts, you literally are introducing mold into the body.
Hmm.
So it's just people don't know these things.
Yeah.
Now, if you're taking a raw peanut and you're grinding that raw peanut down and you're eating it, that's fine. But how do you think they grind these peanuts down that are nice and smooth for you? They roast them. So you're just ingesting bad oil with mold. It's that disconnect, right? It's because
Yeah.
people don't think of it that way.
Yeah. Right. We're just out of touch with a lot of things, like you said, with our bodies, with things in nature that we're supposed to actually put into our bodies. Yeah, very disconnected from a lot of it. But the more we talk about it, the more people are being introduced to it, becoming aware. I mean, even in the amount of time that I've just started sharing more, using this platform, talking to just random people. I mean, it helps every little bit. Okay, if you can get one person to get the idea in their head and then they start looking more into what they're eating and what they're doing with their bodies, it creates a really cool ripple effect.
100%. I also think, the scandemic woke a lot of people up.
Yeah, which is amazing. I mean, so stupid of a thing to go through, but so much good is coming out of it.
I definitely think it was necessary. I think we needed, as a society, a wake up call in so many ways. And I think it's such an amazing, beautiful privilege that I constantly am meeting people, gaining clients, and I'm able to kind of reconnect themselves back into their own intuition and back to their own common sense, right? Because you and I, for example, two totally different body types, right? We're ethnically different, right? You're born and raised in the United States, right? I was born, raised on a totally different diet.
Yeah.
And that going back to the way I ate as a child has definitely worked for me, right? I love my potatoes. I love my proteins, especially my fishing. That's mostly what I eat. And I love my veggies. Well, I know people who, if they ate what I ate every day, they'd get fat because it's not something that their body can work
Mhm.
around. So ethnicity and cultural upbringing, genetics in that way kind of have, I believe, an impact. So you know everything you need to know already for your own body. It's just you're not trusting it because they've done a great job convincing you that unless there's like a DR or a PhD somewhere in that title, they're the only ones that know what's right for your body.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's gotten to the point where, like, I don't trust any of those PhD, DR, like even the dentist. Every time I go into the dentist with my kids for a cleaning and they try to tell me something, I'm like, really, really, do we really need to do, like, it's bad now. Like, I probably come across like a really big jerk, but there's been too many things that I've just listened to that I wish I hadn't, um, because there's other ways of healing the body and helping it to heal itself that don't involve the bullshit that they push on you all the time. Um, yeah,
Definitely agree. I mean, I even if you take the simple conversation of a toothbrush, how do you expect for you not to be destroying your enamel when your toothbrush has rubber pieces in it? You know what I mean? And every
yeah,
time you go to a dentist and they offer you a free toothbrush, it has a rubber piece in it.
yeah,
So you're literally wearing your teeth down because your teeth don't need rubber to clean them efficiently.
But they
How do
need it.
people,
Yeah.
how do people, right, that are still living in the wild, right, whether it's in the Polynesian Islands, in Brazil, right, um, all of these countries that, tribes, certain tribes in Africa, like they don't have dentistry and they have no issues with their teeth. So they're allegedly just bush people, right? Like they're not as advanced as we are. They're not technologically as sound as we are, but they medically don't have the issues we have.
Yeah. Because we're doing it to ourselves thanks to the marketing and brainwashing and disconnect.
Yeah. Like I literally just had my annual gynecological, I never can say that word, sorry, appointment.
Yeah.
And the doctor thinks like, first of all, he thinks I'm hilarious because during the whole time that, they were pushing the vaccine on us, he's like, oh, you really should get it. And I said, no. So then when I saw him, he's like, well, you turned 40, you gotta do that mammogram. I said, Doc, you pushed the vaccine on me for almost 4 years, and look how that turned out for you. I know for a fact, mammogram, it's something that's not touching my titties. I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm good. You know?
Yeah. The research on all that too, and how unnecessary and actually harmful all of that is.
Yeah.
There's other ways, like if you really need to have things scanned, is it thermography? Like there's so many other like less harmful ways to image the breast tissue to see like if you really need to scan things, you can do other options.
But the thing is, the question I always ask is, so I turned 40, what makes it different from being 39? I'm
Right.
in excellent health. I have never had any work done in my face. Like this is my natural hair color. People meet me, they think I'm 27, 28 majority of the time. So because I turned 40, now I'm supposed to be suggesting my body to all of this exposure. And you can't even explain to me why, other than you turned 40, you need it. Well, why do I need it?
Yeah.
Explain to me the logic behind
Right.
why this is needed, why this is necessary.
Yeah. Right. Let me guess. Crickets.
He just looked at me like he already knew this was going to be a battle that's going to be unresolved.
Yeah. It's
It's
just
the
like
same thing. Like, I told you I had the emergency appendectomy
yeah.
and my surgeon was phenomenal. He did a great job. So it was a little weird when they tell you you have good skin. It's kind of like when nurses look at your veins and they're like, "Ooh, you have a nice veins." Like that's a little weird.
Yeah.
Um, but I went to my follow up, and the first thing I asked him was, I noticed in my discharge paperwork there wasn't any mention of anything I need to watch out for as far as diet or things that maybe will cause any type of inflammation or anything. He's like, no, you don't need it. And I had a whole rack of questions for him. And he literally like kind of put his like little clipboard thing down and was like, I'm going to be just very honest with you. We don't really know. I said, what is it that you don't know? He goes, well, there's been no research done on the appendix at all. Someone deemed it to be an unnecessary organ, and that's just what's been medically accepted. I said, so let me
Ah,
get this straight. You removed an organ that you still have, no one's done any research on as to why it flames randomly for people sometimes, and it sometimes bursts, and it's literally one of the highest like mortality rates, right? Because your body goes into sepsis. And you can't even explain to me why you have no medical guidance for me. You told me to just rest for 2 to 4 weeks. That's it. Like we're just winging it. It's the same thing. I know people who had their gallbladders removed. And I said to them, okay, well, you need to be really cognizant of what you're eating now.
mhm.
And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, go to your doctor and ask your doctor what kind of dietary changes you need to make. And they're like, okay, they follow up with me and they're like, the doctor said I'm fine. I said, okay. Now I want you to go to look up what your gallbladder does. What is the responsibility of the gallbladder in the body? So they do, they come back to me. And they're still like, so what's the problem? I said, that's the issue. It's that disconnect.
Mhm.
When you lose the gallbladder, You do not have an organ in your body that can break down fat anymore.
Yep.
So you need to watch the carbs because that turn into sugar, right? Fats. And I literally have known someone who had their gallbladder removed and their significant other brought them a colossal cupcake to the emergency room.
Oh,
But when you say things, this culture is so sensitive because everyone thinks you're trying to body shame them or
right.
anything like that, right?
So stupid. Like,
And to me, it's not about body shaming, it's about
oh,
longevity,
yeah.
right? Like, don't you want to be healthy? Like, my goal is to live to 120, and I'm cocky and stubborn, and I will get there. Okay.
That's, I will see you
So,
there, my friend.
you know, and it's like, I feel amazing at 40. I'm excited for what my 40s are going to look like. I haven't had to make any changes in my diet, in my exercise or anything like that. I work crazy hours, right? Outside of having my own business, but I'm going to let doctors now put into my head, oh, you're 40. Oh, halfway done with life. What?
Yeah.
My my grandmother in Poland is 93. This woman cooks for herself, lives alone, drives her little car. Now, granted, she's like a road pirate. Okay. You will be getting out of her way, but fully functional, right? One of my
Yeah.
aunts, my great aunts, 96,
That's
no
awesome.
dementias, no Alzheimer's, no diabetes, no obesities. So, but we're allegedly such a more advanced country, right?
Mm.
Yet
Yeah.
people are now coming down with Alzheimer's and dementias in 60s.
Right.
That's scary.
Yeah. Right. And that's also the whole low fat, non fat bullshit because the brain needs fat. And so you're going on these non fat, low fat diets, and then your brain's not working right because it's not getting the fuel that it needs. And nobody's like, oh, we have to eat right for our brain. Like, yeah, everything in your body
You
needs.
need your oils.
Yeah.
So one thing that almost all of us are vitamin D deficient. So what do people do? They go on Amazon, they go to whatever store, and they get their vitamin Ds. That's great. But what people don't realize is vitamin D is not really a vitamin, it's a hormone that is naturally produced in the body, but you need two things in order to produce it. You need cholesterol. Yes, that dirty word, cholesterol. You need the good stuff. You need the oils. You need the healthy fats. And you need sunlight, right? You need at least 15 minutes of true sun exposure, right? I don't use sunblock. People are like, oh, how could you? It's filled with
I don't.
nanoparticles.
Yeah.
We've had these conversations, right?
Hmm.
It's terrible for you, but you need sunlight. And the more melanin your skin has, the more sunlight you need in order to trigger that production of that amazing vitamin D, aka hormone D, because you're the hormone, right? Once it's produced in the body, it helps to lubricate the joints. It helps to calm the mental and the emotional. It helps to regulate the thyroid. And then people wonder, right? They have all of these issues. All you need is just good oils and a little sunlight. You don't need to be on medicine for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
because of low vitamin D.
Yeah. Right. I freaking love the sun too. I was tanning yesterday. It was 72 in California yesterday. I was out by my pool.
I'm a little jealous because, today's been like our warmest day in DC at like 61, 62, and it's been just rainy all day. So, you
Ah.
know, we've had a lot. We've been kind of beat up by winter this year, but it's okay. We need it, you need the
Yeah.
snow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever shared with you one of the most powerful stories I ever heard about in the sun when I was in Mexico. There
Oh,
was a gentleman there, and this is probably maybe 10 years ago almost. And I truly believe you don't meet anybody in life like on a coincidence, right?
hmm.
Everyone comes into your path for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm like in the beach and I see this guy, like skinny, like guy, older gentleman, and he has like a really nice tan going, and he's literally standing in the ocean like this. And I'm like, how many shots does this guy have? And then he just starts to randomly talk to me. And he goes, I know I probably look crazy to you, but I'd rather look crazy and be alive. So that intrigued me. So I was like, all right, sir, well, let me hear the story.
Yeah.
So he said he was a crazy successful businessman and, had all the cars, the houses, the wife, the kids, right? Super successful, 1% earner, like in the United States, the whole shebang, multiple properties. And then he got a diagnosis that he has brain cancer. And they basically gave him 6 months to live. And, luckily for him, he had the resources and, to get the best medical care and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the cancer was just getting more and more aggressive. And at this point, he's counting down days, maybe a couple weeks before he's gone, right? Um, and he starts to do research into natural holistic medicines and what's called blue zones, which I don't know if you discussed that with your viewers, but blue zones are basically places in the world where everyone lives to 100 or past 100 in full health, right? Phenomenal
Yeah.
stuff. Definitely recommend looking it up. And the reasons why those people aren't coming down with cancers and ailments and so on and so forth. But he also started to do research on the closer you are to the equator, and because a lot of the blue zones are right on around that equator,
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of research has been pointing to that there's something in the sun. So he came down to Mexico. He met with, holistic doctors and practitioners, and they literally said to him, they gave him different herbs, oils. He's like, but the one thing I need you to do is I need you to go 4 times a day, stand in the ocean, like bury your feet under that sand,
Yeah.
and just go like this for 15 minutes every day, right? 3, 4 times a day. He said within about 60 days, he never felt better. Came back to the United States, went back to all his amazing doctors, and they literally were like, the cancer's gone. Cancer's gone. They couldn't believe it. Medical miracle, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Back to working, 6 or 9 months down the line, I believe he stated, he's feeling sick again. The doctors are like, well, he's like, well, the cancer's coming back. And it's worse than it was originally.
Whoa.
So,
Okay.
so he said, well, I'm going to Mexico. I don't want any of your treatments. I don't want any of these chemos. I don't want any of this stuff. He's like, I'm going to go back to Mexico. And he has been living in Mexico from 2, 3 years now. He says he has no reason to leave it. He
Yeah.
stands in the sun only once or twice a day. He's never felt better. And he rather the simple life in Mexico. He said, that he's very grateful for the fact that he was able to make the money he made and he was able to liquidate, his savings, his family's taken care of. And he
Yeah.
lives in the island of Cozumel in Mexico, which is like right across the water, about an hour off of Cancun. And he's like, I'm just grateful to be alive. He's like, I'm okay looking like a crazy man once or twice a day, but I'm still here breathing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that was like one of the very life altering episodes, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, there might be something to this natural holistic sun life,
Oh gosh, 100%. And I think that's a fabulous story to end on because I know you and I could keep talking for hours. So we'll just have to have you come back again to keep discussing all the knowledge that you have that could potentially help so many other people. That story is really amazing, though. And I believe in the power of, right, the God given things that are on this earth that are designed to help our bodies function and heal themselves and repair. Um,
100%.
So, Nika, let people know where they can find you because I know if they're interested in bee pollen or sea moss too, and then just to follow you wherever you may be. So, let them know, like website, social media, where can they find you?
So I have a YouTube channel called StoLat Wellness, and StoLat in Polish means 100 years. It's actually a birthday song. And you say it in a sense of celebration, but also to wish you to live being the key word, to 100 years. And it's spelled STOLAT, wellness. And I have a YouTube channel. You could also find me on my website at www.stolatwellness.com. And my Instagram handle is StoLat, STOLAT, the number 4 and the letter U, StoLat for you. And you could always connect through Sue if you need to reach me for anything. And I would definitely love to come back if there's any questions or anything that, any of your viewers may have. I'm always an open door policy on my end. And thank you very much for the opportunity. And it's always such a pleasure to catch up with you.
I love chatting with you too. And thanks for being here. You guys all know where to find me, balancedaylife.com, YouTube, Spotify. I'm moving things over to Substack. Did I miss anything? I think that's it. All right.
Instagram.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye, doll.